Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Masha Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. On today's episode, Michelle and I are excited to be speaking with product and leadership coach Randy Silver about the product environment canvas. So let's dive in. How you doing, Randy?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Randy. Welcome to the show. And even though you have American accent, you are actually in London.
I am. I've been here for 20 years, but I'm from New York originally.
Okay. London, England.
Awesome. I'm going to count that for the U.S. team. I'm just going to take that. I'm going to take that for our U.S.
We have this, we have this competition.
Yeah.
Canadians versus Americans.
Yeah.
But I always love to hear from anyone all over the world. So it's actually not about that. It's just.
I lived in Seattle for a while. I always called that Baja Canada. So, you can call me whatever you want. Play me wherever.
We'll split it then.
There we go. There we go. So welcome to the show. And you've been for many years now in product. And we're going to talk about, your canvas, the product environment canvas that you put together, and what is it and how does it helps product people. But before that, tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, how did you find yourself in product, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Randy. I'm a product coach and consultant, and I build communities as well. My first career, strangely enough, I was a music journalist for about 10 years, and I helped start Amazon's music store in the US and the UK. I was Amazon's first hip hop and children's music editor, and there's not very much overlap on that, but it was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
And at a certain point, I looked around and I said, who's older than me in this field that has the kind of life that I want to have? And I just didn't see a future for me in music journalism. It wasn't where I want to be. I still absolutely love music, and I've got claims to fame and all that I can talk about later. But I looked around and I realized working with people who were writers and editors and designers, and then I also worked with developers to build new features and new configurations for the type article types and the things we were doing on the site. And working with all those people to build something that was better than the individual pieces, that was targeted at delighting our customers and delivering value to the company, turns out it's a highly transferable skill set. And I still kind of think I do pretty much the same thing. I have an editorial or editor's mindset to the way I work with people. And at a certain point, I ended up working in radio for a number of years, with Sirius Radio in the States before the XM merger. And then I came back to the UK, worked with a radio group here. And someone here offered me the job at that radio group and said, we'd like you to be a product manager. And I said, great, what's that? And they told me about Scrum. They told me about Lean. They told me about Kanban and Agile. And I said, hang on, this thing I've been doing as an interactive producer for the last few years, you mean there are frameworks, there are best practices, there are standards, there are ways of working properly instead of just begging and borrowing and faking it? And they said, yes. And I said, sign me up. And I've been a dedicated official product person since, was that about 2008 or 9? Possibly even earlier, but an unofficial product person since even before that.
Yeah, amazing.
I
don't think we had ever a music journalist that we always hear different stories. No one got to product just from product.
You got me before Matt LeMay, because he's got a very similar background.
Okay.
Awesome. That's the amazing thing. Everybody comes from, different backgrounds. I'm from accounting and finance, Michelle's from developer world. So it's just cool when it comes to product management. It just takes all different types of people to make it happen.
Absolutely. And you're also the host of the Product Experience podcast for Mind the Product, and you've done it for quite some time, with, I think, double the number of episodes, no, even more than that, maybe triple the number of episodes that we have. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm the co-host actually with Lily Smith. I don't want to forget Lily, but she's incredibly important to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we started it in about 2019 and have been going weekly ever since, which is terrifying. The idea came to me because I was speaking at one of the minor product events, and I wanted my talk to be really good. So I went off to a bunch of product tank events around England to, take it like a comedy set, like take it on the road. It was actually a slightly silly talk. It's a gods, superheroes, and product managers, and it's about the fact that we are not gods, we are not the CEOs, we're not that. We are the mentor, enabler of our customers. Who it's their success that's important, not ours. But there's a number of laughs in it, and I needed to find them. I need to figure out how to deliver this the right way. So I went to Birmingham and Manchester and Brighton and a few other places, and wanted to see how it goes. And all the other people I was talking with at these events were really smart. They'd worked really hard to figure out how to tell their stories in like a tight 20 minutes with good examples, good lessons. And no one was videoing these talks. If you weren't there in the room, they were gone. And I said, if people have worked this hard to tell a really good story, I'm a former journalist, I'm a former radio person, I love podcasts. I can just call up these people and get them on a Zoom or whatever and talk to. I can write a few questions based on the work they've already done and set them up to say the smart things as a conversation rather than as a talk. And that was it. I approached the Mind the Product guys with Lily, and they said yes, and we've been doing it ever since. And every week we talk to someone who explains to us and hopefully to everyone else that listens how to do our job just a little bit better.
Amazing. And thank you for having me on the show recently. I really enjoyed that. You guys are doing an amazing job. And behind the scenes was also very cool because we are doing the same here, Matt and I. So
Yeah.
it's always like seeing what other people are doing as well.
Yeah.
So while I've got the opportunity, I'll just ask if you, Moshe and Matt, or anybody listening, if you know someone who's got a great story, if you've got a great story about how to do your job better, get in touch. Our network is only so big. We're always looking for people, and we do it every week. So please let us know.
Sounds like an invite.
Absolutely. So let's start talking about the product environment canvas. This is why you're here for today, as a tool that you put together, a simple tool, but still very impactful. Tell us a bit about what is it?
Sure. So a few years ago, I was doing a job where I worked with someone who I couldn't solve them. It was the most difficult person I'd ever worked with, and I couldn't figure out how to make it work. And at the end of that gig, my wife said, "Don't do another job like that anytime soon, please. It's not good for you. It's not good for us. Take a different type of approach to things." And I started thinking about, why did this not go well? And there were things that the two of us just never aligned on, and we couldn't get there. And that was something I'd been doing alongside the coaching and consulting I do. And I started thinking about the mental model that I have and the lessons that I learned over the years. And what had I missed in this one? What made this one go wrong? And I started writing it down and thinking about, okay, the most important thing we need to focus on to get any alignment at all is, do we agree that on the strategy? Do we have the same priorities in place? Do we agree on what the prioritization decisions in the organization should be based on? Because if we're not aimed in the same direction, we got no chance. So let's start with that. Then once you know what you're trying to accomplish, do we have the right people to do it? Do we agree that the people we've got are strong enough, that they've got the right capabilities, that the team is organized right, that we have enough of them, things like that? Do we have the culture and the permissions for them to excel at their job? So if you know what to do you have the people to do it, to go after the task? If you're talking about the perspective of putting together a team for a heist or a raid or one of those fun movie type things, you want to know what the aim is and assemble the team.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've got that, then there's a third P, which is process. Are the processes in the business working for you? Are they just there to help you in the team to deliver value, or is there just a lot of bureaucracy that's been built up over time? I've worked in lots of legacy organizations where you do things because you have to do them. Things like how there was one gig where I was a head of product, and I think I spent 50% of my time working with finance on the difference between CapEx and OpEx for our team, just so the people on my team could actually do their job. And anyone who's spent their time doing 10 different versions of a roadmap or updates for different stakeholders in their organization knows processes and organizations don't always work very well. They're not very aligned to delivering value. So for a really long time, I thought if I was doing those things right, if I knew what to work on, I had the right people and they were trained up and working well together and we had good processes, that was it. That was, everything I'd heard about in product textbooks and talks and from everyone else. That's how to kick ass at product. And it hit me after after I did this job and it didn't work, that I was missing something really fundamental, which is other people don't necessarily see it the same way that I do. They have a different perception of these things. They may not agree that we're working on the right priorities and with what the product team says, that our people may not be as good as I think they are. They have a different perception of it, that the processes that we've optimized to do product well don't work for them, whether it's for dev, whether it's for sales, whether it's for marketing. It's just something that is not aligned to the way that they work. So the product environment canvas is those four things. It's prioritization, people, process, and perception with some questions around it. And I can talk about how I use it, but it's really just my mental model. And whenever I'm coaching somebody, 99 times out of 100, the things that they're telling me, their frustrations, their problems, their challenges, they fall into one of these categories really well. And sometimes the obvious questions are, what about the other category? Is there something you're not telling me about that? And it really just helps me to organize my thoughts, and it's helped other people that I've coached to organize their thoughts as well. And it helps us put a plan in place.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting thing because I'm also the P's, here you have four P's, I believe, like product, people, process,
Process and perception.
and perception. Marty Kagan is talking in Inspired about the three P's, product, people, and process. I don't think he's talking so much about the perception. So that's another very interesting layer on top of that. And I'm always coming to think about, job to be done. Like the perception is once I understand the job to be done of the other person, then I should be able to understand their perception.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of questions I always like to ask. If you're having trouble working with other people, ask when doing discovery. Discovery isn't just for customers. It's for internal things with your stakeholders, with your partners as well. And understanding what is their bonusable measure? What are they trying to accomplish? Or to boil it down to the way that coaches usually talk about it, the question that everyone is facing is, what's in it for me? And if you can put yourself in the mind of other people, it's really helpful. One of the techniques I like to use is called motivation mapping. And it's
Hmm.
very simply looking at all the people you're working with and understanding their motivations. And there are times that you, as a product person, you have multiple stakeholders who have different motivations. And sometimes they're at cross purposes. And there are things that you, based on where you are in the organization, your seniority, the politics and the people, you potentially can't do anything about it. It's an issue that you are powerless to solve. That's painful. Not banging your head against a wall is no fun, but being able to recognize that it's a problem and communicate that to the appropriate people so that they can help you solve this or acknowledge that's an issue and that you have to work around it or disappoint somebody. It's a lot easier than fighting that battle on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been in companies where you have the legacy process. I've been in large companies where, this process is in place and this just is what it is and you don't change it. But then I'm also in organizations where there is no process at all. Nobody knows quite what to do. So they have different opinions, but they can't quite implement something that's effective. So I'm trying to think about if you're working through this and solutioning it, which is sometimes the easier path, like easier way to get through this stuff. Have you encountered this? We don't have any kind of process at all. How do we come up with it?
That definitely comes up sometimes. I think process is something that means different things to different people. So I use it to mean a lot of different things. Is anything that gets in the way of you shipping value at regular increments and being able to measure it. So it can be, CI/CD, and do you actually get code into production? It can be, do I have access to customers or potential customers to do discovery and talk to them. It can also be something as simple as, do I have too many meetings in my diary so I can't actually get anything done and think coherently? Am I just running from pillar to post and always in update calls with people? So it can be as simple as looking at your diary and saying,
Yeah.
all of these recurring meetings, they all need to happen this often. Do they all need this many people? Can some of them be replaced by an email or Slack update? Or, can we do it less often? Can we do it slightly differently? That can be processed as much as the technical parts of the product process.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, it's almost like a pattern recognition. Like we're in a lot of different calls, a lot of different meetings. There's probably a process going on of some sort, but understanding like what pattern that is and whether that is an effective way to do things. I think that's the recognition that we're talking about here.
Absolutely. And my friend Faith Forster, we talked to her for our podcast the other week, and one of the things that came up was aligning the processes of product, the cadence of product with other parts of the organization. So if you're looking to realize value and it's going to take you 2 quarters to accomplish what you're trying to do, but finance is thinking about it in terms of the next quarter and they need the numbers by then you're not aligned very well. You're not going to be thinking about things and pushing things out at the right cadence or working very well together. So it can be as simple as understanding what other people's deadlines and diaries are like, and how do you work with them to formulate hypotheses, report on how well things are going and what you're going to plan.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'm visualizing an ecosystem or like a biome of some sort. Like everything has a place and everything kind of works together. You just have to like zoom out to see it.
I think that with the trend these days to talk about AI, and I'm sure it will come again in this discussion because it always does, and it's funny that I'm the one bringing it up, actually. Uh, it's almost like many people can identify where they have a process in places where they're trying to replace it with AI. So, like, where can I automate the things that I'm doing today to make it faster? So that's really the process that I'm doing today. And maybe there are better ways to do it by automating it using some type of AI or some other ways to automate things.
We can go down lots of rabbit holes on this
You
one.
probably don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
Let me ask
Okay,
you.
let's skip that. We can come back to it if you want to.
Yeah. No, I kind of like, sometimes I'm doing these comments about AI just to spite rather than to say anything intelligent. But but that's me. That's me. Maybe there will be a collection of those AI sayings that I have. But I want to go back to the canvas because we learned, how you can I buy it and how you put it together and what does the components are. When do you see is the most effective time to actually start using it, and who usually brings it into the organization that is quite effective?
Good question. So the best time to use it is as soon as you're recognizing that you're having challenges, that things aren't going where you want to. This is, like I said, this is my mental model. It's a Creative Commons open license to Canvas. I encourage you to use it. I encourage you to adapt it and change it to whatever works for you. All the tools that we have, all the frameworks that we have are things that people just made up. This is something that I made up that works for me. The time to use it is when you recognize that things aren't going as well as you'd like, and to help you diagnose what are the challenges that are going on. And there are 3 different ways to use it. There, you can use it by yourself immediately, just to take 15, 20 minutes out, take a look at it. There's a bunch of starter questions on it, so to prompt you, and just write some things down that are you recognize as being in the way of doing the job that you need to do. The next way to use it is with your product development team. So the best way that I found to use that is in a retro. Using the same retro format all the time gets a bit stale and old. So once in a while, if you're recognizing kinds of problems that you're not getting through very well in a standard retro, use this. Have the team fill it out, and it's different for all teams. You can have everyone fill it out together collaboratively in a session. There's a Miro board version of it that's easy to use. You can give it to people to do in advance and come pre-populated if that's a better thing for the people on your team. If they don't think on their feet quite so much and they want some time to think about it in advance. That's fine. The important thing is that you bring the stuff together and you discuss it. The third case that I really like is just in advance of quarterly planning. When you're thinking about OKRs or any big planning session, if things have been a bit of a challenge with your stakeholders and your partners, it's good to do it with them. And again, this can be one-on-one with an individual. It can be with a council of stakeholders if that's the way that your team reports and works. Whatever makes the most sense. And there is no specific best possible way of whether you do it ahead of time, in real time in a room, bring it out and do it one-on-one or with a group. That's all absolutely fine. This is a tool to help facilitate a better discussion so that you can make better decisions together. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. What about if I'm looking for a new job in product as a product leader, and I want to understand the the good fit with the organization? Do you think I can come up with this like, okay, let's put this canvas together? Would that work even?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I've never considered it for that use case. I think the biggest challenge you're going to have in that case is when you're outside an organization and you're looking for fit, you're not necessarily seeing the truth. You're seeing a view of what the world looks like. You're seeing what they show you at that point.
Yeah.
It may give you some good questions to ask. It may point to some blind spots. There are certainly questions I ask or have asked when I've been looking for permanent roles or interim roles that relate to these things to help me understand what the problems are.
Yeah.
I think it's even more important if you've accepted and started to keep these things in mind in your first 30, 60, 90 days to see where are the problems developing,
Yeah.
where are you seeing them so you can diagnose them and deal with them.
Yeah. It's actually I think along the same lines. Not that I'm looking for a job right now or anything like that, but if I would have, I would probably fill it up for be like, what is my good fit type of organization I would like to work with? Like, what are the products, the people, the processes, and the perception that they have internally? And then see when I ask them questions about each one of those. But you're right, it's companies do sell themselves also when they interview, and you cannot know until you actually start working with them. So it could be a bit tricky.
The tool I'd actually recommend in that case is Phil Terry's job search index and inventory, and the never search alone stuff. If you've ever covered that,
Yeah,
I
we
was interviewed.
actually interviewed recently a great guy that was using it, Marcus Pellini.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so he talked about using that tool for his job search.
And
Um,
I interviewed someone at a recent place I was consulting, and they were coming from one of the big FANG companies to an NGO, and I was a little worried that they didn't know what they were getting into. And
mm,
I specifically said, we do not pay at this organization like you do at that organization. We don't have people with the same pedigree. We have a different management structure, different maturity of people. What makes you want to come here? And the answer I got was that they had specifically filled this job. They knew what they were getting into, and it ticked all their boxes. And I was able to unequivocally recommend them based on the fact that they had gone through that process.
that's great. That's great. So here we found a new usage for the canvas. But inside the organization, do you think it can be usefully implemented by a product team or as an overall tool, not just for the team itself, but if the team see there is a problem in the organization and overall, or a product manager or a leader see there is a problem with the organization, do you think it's effective or it has to come from the leadership? There needs to be some type of leadership buy-in.
Define what you mean by leadership on this one, because I think any team that's being the standard product team. Rich Marinov's rule is a product team costs about $1 million a year minimum to run. So whoever is in charge of that team, whether that's the product manager, the dev leads, the product trio, whatever you want to call it, that is a leadership position. That's a lot of money you're committing for an organization.
Mm, mm,
Even if it doesn't cost quite that much, it's going to be a significant amount of budget. So you're responsible for an awful lot as part of a product development team. This is what this canvas does, hopefully, is it gives you a better way of communicating with other people about this. It is just helping you to organize your thoughts and discuss with the people that when you've observed specific issues, some of them are things that you might be able to control and do within your team. That's great. But there are some that you might need help to resolve from people above or in other parts of the organization. And a lot of times, what we're bad at is communicating that in a coherent way and understanding, taking a step back and understanding other people's perception of the problem or why, what a good solution looks like. So the point of the canvas is to help explain this as coherently as possible, to take other people into account, and then be able to share it and discuss it with them in a more useful and salient way.
Yeah.
So I think it's potentially useful for anybody. But again, this is what works for me. If you need to change it, or if it's not quite the right tool, or if it's a good tool for you to organize your thoughts and you throw it away and present it in another way, another environment, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to be offended if you use it differently.
How do you go about using the people portion? So that's a real like self-reflective piece of things. And so if you're like on the product team or working with the engineering and stuff, like do you need to go through that exercise like with yourself first and say like, do we have the right people to do this before you bring them into the room? Because once they're in the room with you, things can change, right? How do you kind of
Yeah.
tackle the
So
people portion?
my personal view of do we have the right people, do we have the right capabilities on the team may be different than the team's collective view, and that's absolutely fine. You may not want to share your version of the canvas with
Mm,
the team as you're doing it collective, but that's normal. You don't share all your HR assessments and things like that, your rankings
mm,
publicly all the in most companies. Let's not get into holacracies and teal organizations. That's a whole nother matter. When you're discussing it with the team as a whole, it's really useful to say, this is the goal we're trying to reach. What do you think? Do we have the capabilities? Do we have enough people? What is the skill sets that we're missing? And then you can discuss whether it's, if it's just a question of we're too busy, we can't do everything, then it becomes a question of prioritization. What can we drop or potentially change so that we do have the right skills, we just don't have the time and the number of people that we need. Or it can be, you know what, we don't have anybody good at front end right now. We're usually a back end team working on things, but right now we're really challenged with front end stuff. Maybe we can borrow someone from another team, or it's a skill set we need to recruit for or develop that we
hmm
can't do, or something to that effect. And it may be another discussion entirely when you're talking to stakeholders privately about whether they have confidence in the team. But then again, you're just getting different people's perspectives on the problem. And it's your job to then marry those perspectives together and figure out how you're going to deal with this.
Yep. And
Yeah.
culturally, this has to be like a really safe space to bring up this kind of stuff. I've worked in organizations. I think we probably all have at some point where, it's difficult to bring these kind of things up and talk about these, difficult things. You're going through this exercise because things are probably not working out the best. So, or not as optimal as you would like.
And the real challenge, as with this, as with any retro, is it's fine to surface the problems. You as a team, you as a person, you and your stakeholders have to commit to fixing some of them, the ones that you can, and the ones that you can't, you need to identify who is able to deal with them, if anyone, and they need to respond in a way that is giving you some value. They need to at least acknowledge the problem at the very least. Otherwise, it's creating a poor relationship, a poor environment. And if it's something that's within their power to fix and it is the right thing to do, they should be able to show action and report back to you. Um, Sometimes they can't do anything about it. That's okay. But acknowledging, yeah, this is tough. We can't
Mm,
do anything about this in the short term, or we can't do anything about this at all. But we're aware that this is hard for you. That is better than nothing.
mm. I like the word acknowledgement. Like the first word in recovery, I think, is like acknowledging there's a problem. So that's like, hey, I'm aware of it. It's a real thing. So let's talk about it.
But it also closes circle on what you said before, Matt, about the culture, because it's really about, is there a culture of admitting failure, admitting wrongdoing,
Yeah,
admitting we have a problem in the first place.
right.
And if the culture is not there for that, it doesn't really matter what tools you're going to use. People will just it's not going to be exposed.
Yeah, and people will check out, and you'll have that lack of motivation, and things processes will start to slip, and it's very contagious, and people
Yeah,
will start to talk, and yeah, it's tough.
yeah, absolutely. No one said it's easy.
No, that's the truth. If it was easy, it wouldn't be work, right?
Yeah, but I think that the perception, that additional P is so important because the perception is really about, even if you're not telling me everything that is going on and everything that is wrong, if I can understand your perception about what you think it is, what you feel it is, so even if I can see it in your body language or the words you're using and what you're saying, what you're not saying, that could be quite revealing about the situation.
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's the thing that took me far and away the longest in my career to figure out, and I'm embarrassed about how long it took me to figure this one out.
Don't be.
I
I
thought
think,
I was doing a great job for so long, and looking back, realizing, some people on my team thought I was doing a great job too, and it was an us versus them mentality, you know, product versus the business. There is no versus. No one's winning in that battle. It's a
yeah, yeah,
terrible way of looking at
yeah,
the world.
yeah.
And it just took me way longer than it should have to grow up and realize this.
Mm. Yeah, I will add another P, like patience. And I thought I was patience for my entire life until someone told me I'm not. And I'm like, so don't worry about it at all. I think the best learnings that we have are the hard way, by failing some and then realizing what happened. Do you have an example you can share with us where this kind of changed how things were working at an organization once you used it?
But so I've used it informally a lot with people in coaching sessions, and informally I've given it to people to go in and fill out. Obviously, I can't talk about what's happened in any given coaching interaction, but going through this, asking these questions, having these prompts has led people to look at things from a very, very different perspective. In the same way, it took me way longer than it should have to realize some things. We've been able to shortcut things, and people realizing, okay, what we have at the moment in our organization is not a strategy. We're not able to make prioritization decisions. We have an ambition. We want to hit, 5 million customers or X number in ARR or something like that. But we don't actually have, that's not enough. Everyone in the organization has a different understanding of how we're going to get there. So we're not able to make coherent prioritization discussions and decisions together. So that's one way it's come up a number of times. Um, Working less on the individual product team, more with leadership, has been talking about, do we have the right people? Do we have enough of them? Do we have the capabilities that we need, especially as things are getting challenged by things like AI and stakeholders are expecting things to happen faster for new capabilities, new ways of thinking. There's an organization I worked with recently where there were just a couple of people they'd been very good in that organization for a long time, but they didn't have the skill set that was needed for the next stage. And it was a
Mhm.
question of how are we able to figure that out and deal with that effectively and make sure we're having that discussion, because ultimately it's come up any number of times, the idea that your team is only as strong as what your stakeholders think of them. If you walk in with weak people who are making mistakes on a regular basis, who are quoting the wrong numbers or just giving bad strategy or unprepared, you may know that you're working with them on developing them, but your stakeholders are seeing mistake and mistake and mistake, and they're judging you for that as well. So
Mhm.
understanding the perception of your people and your team, and that perception can color a lot of things. Somebody who's made mistakes in the past that doesn't have the faith of people can come up with a brilliant strategy, can come up with something wonderful, but it won't be heard because they're not trusted in the organization. They've lost the opportunity to do what they need to do, what the job that you need them to do. And
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
really tough thing to face up to. But sometimes you need to change people in an organization, or at least shift them around so that they're working with people that they haven't worked with before to
Right,
give them a fresh start.
right. So
That's
if I summarize it with a few words, it's really a tool to find the root cause of any issues with your product organization. And once you find those root cause, you can actually prioritize or ideate even what should you do next in order to fix that.
It starts with identifying the symptoms rather than the root cause, because it's what do people perceive it as, what do they think the problems are?
Hmm.
And it gives you an opportunity to prioritize and start tackling those. But it's through discussion of those symptoms and how well does solving an individual symptom solve the old underlying problem, or do three more things pop up? That's when you can start to really see the root causes.
Mm.
Um, Root causes they're tough to tackle because they're usually not that obvious at first glance.
Yeah.
Usually people need to deal with a symptom or two or try it that way before they're ready to do the root cause.
Hmm. Okay, great. No, I like that. I really like that. You're right. I mean, it's hard to identify root cause, and that's why root cause analysis process is not an easy one. There are tools for that, like the 5 whys and other things, to understand different things. But what resonated with me throughout this discussion is that at the end of the day, we want to fix the root cause in order to improve. And if we can identify the symptoms, like you said, and through fixing them, we can find the root cause, that will be the ultimate, I think, the ultimate outcome.
And that's ultimately the way I work with organizations most of the time as a coach and consultant these days. Usually people come to me if they're in a product role, a head, a director, a CPO role, and they'll say, I've gotten some funding to fix a problem in my team where we don't do discovery very well, we don't ship fast enough, we have problems with stakeholder management, our prioritization process isn't very strong, something like that, something that they have identified as a specific problem that they want their team to get better at. And I'm always very, very open with them. Is I'm happy to train your people. I'm happy to training is good. Coaching is better because then we can instill that things and make it a habit and get them doing it. But really, what you're describing is people will get better at the skill. But what we need to do is create a better environment in your organization so
Yeah.
that people can practice this better with their stakeholders, not just in the product. They have to improve their skills so that they can be trusted, but you need to create the relationships and the environment across the entire organization so that you're working together on something. So
Yeah.
that's so root cause, so symptoms we identify and we work with, those are product skills, but root causes usually tend to be bigger than just the product team by itself.
Yeah. And another small note there based on that story is that throwing money at the problem is not always the solution. So
Oh no, throw money at me. That's great. I love it. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, I know if you have the money to throw, then why not? But very cool. Um, I'm not sure if I have more questions about this. What about you, Matt?
I'm thinking about the word perception. So as I go through this, I'm like working backwards on some of this. Like sometimes it's this stuff is self-reflective, it's team reflective, but it's perception and how can we influence people to move in certain directions and get things done. So
Mhm.
the word perception I'm hanging on. I know it's like perception, like do we agree and disagree with what we're working through, but like how do people perceive us? Because I think as product managers, like influencing stakeholders, influencing work getting done, I think that's like really critical in this
Yeah. So
process.
I've been in the position a number of times in my career where there's something, I'm the product manager or the head of product for product X, and I see an opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity. We're going to make millions off of this thing, and we'll make an additional $10 million this year. It's brilliant. It's a no-brainer. We absolutely need to do it. And I have not gotten the okay to move forward. I've had an ask for whether it's money or people or whatever to get to go and accomplish this. And I've always earlier in my career I would take that very personally, and it's hard not to. It feels very personal. This is your baby. You've worked hard on it. You own this thing. We're not the CEO of the product or any of that crap, but it feels that way sometimes.
Mhm.
What you don't know is that the guy down the hall, or the person, the other person down the hall, just made an ask for exactly the same amount of people or money or whatever else, and their opportunity is worth 500 million. And of course, it's a no-brainer. Of course, the organization is going to do that. It's nothing personal. They're just happened to be in a spot where they had a better opportunity. If you were the one making the prioritization decision, you would absolutely back them. It's nothing
Mhm.
personal. But you're sitting at a certain elevation in the organization and you don't see that. You just feel like you've been told no, that you're not
Mhm.
good enough, and somebody else is going positive. So perception is a real challenge because if you look at it from the organizational perspective of looking at rising up a mountain kind of thing,
Mhm.
we're only so high. We can only see our valley. We can't see all the other ones, the other plots of lands or whatever. At the same time, when you get too high, you can't see all the problems
Mhm.
that are closer to the coalface, closer to the ground. So it is a real challenge of managing up and managing down at the same time, and providing the feedback and managing perception and dealing with it. But yeah, it's incredibly important to understand, what are other people seeing? Why are they seeing it this way? Is there a better way for me to communicate with them? Is this something I have control over or not? It's really important for your mental health as much as your
Mhm.
professional development.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. It's empowering people. Mache and I, we've had other episodes where we've talked to people about, even if you're in the weeds at the bottom and you're not at the top of the mountain, I guess, you can still make an impact and you can still improve processes. They may be small in the big scheme of things, but like they may make a difference on your team. I think whether you're starting at the bottom or you're way up top, you can make an impact. You just have to be like aware of it.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. We always aim not just for the product leaders, but also for, the entry level product associate or whatever that
Hmm.
is, because we do have to impact from within and many times change how the organization is working. And that's why also in the beginning I ask you, is it okay that people like that or leadership has to use it, etc. And yeah, and that's
Yeah,
that's the importance there, really, that people can influence from within even without the authority.
I think you can use this at pretty much any level. I think. I've not worked down at the product associate level with this directly. I've shared it with plenty of people, so it's possible it's been used that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a matter of scope. You have a more limited scope at that level than you do at say, a group or head or lead product level.
Right.
But the people you're working directly with, this is going to have just as much impact on.
If Yeah, if
It's a
anything,
smaller piece. It is a smaller feedback loop.
yeah.
You're probably thinking in terms of days or weeks or months rather than quarters or years
And
on things. But there's no reason why this isn't a good organizing principle for thoughts.
yeah, and if anything, if you can make this into the tool that you use for your success to become a better product team that create better results and kind of better than any of the other teams in the organization, that should be a case study for others to, use the same methodology. And I've seen that happening as well in the past. Very cool.
One question for you guys: when are you going to use? So, are you going to try it on Monday? Put 20 minutes aside and try it either individually or with your team.
Love to try it. And I was looking at the format of it. I like these boards in terms of like, because they're really tight. I've recently been at a organization for a few months now, and just to self-reflect on like perception and influence and the processes. And now that I have a better understanding of things, like I would totally love to implement something like this on a personal level, and then on a team level as well. So I could see it being used pretty soon.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
Well, if
and
it's helpful in any way, or if you have any questions, please get in touch. I'd love to hear more about how it's worked for you or what could be better.
Awesome.
I will try it in a bit different way because I don't work with one specific organization or one specific product team, but I treat everything that I do as a product, and I'm building my own services and training and different things for startup founders. And I want to see if I can apply to myself with what I'm building. So I know it's going to be a bit tricky because I'm the person, and the person is a lot of it is in my head. The process, sorry, is a lot of it is in my head. but the perception is interesting one because I might have my own perception on in what is it that I'm building, and my clients will have their perception of what is it that they're actually getting from me and what they need. So the stakeholders here are very limited, but I still want to try to apply it in the same way.
I'd love to hear more about how it goes.
Amazing, amazing. Where can people reach out to you?
The easiest way is on my site on outofowls.com or on LinkedIn, are probably the best places to get me. And I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. And we will share the canvas in the links as well. And of course, your podcast. And you have other things going on. I know you also wrote a book during COVID about how to deal with situations like that. What's the name of the book?
The book is called What Do We Do Now? It was all my friends who were leading product teams who were talking to me at the beginning of lockdown saying, oh crap, what do I do? My roadmap goes out the window.
Mm,
And it's really just a reminder that as a product person, the skills that you have are you're the best placed person in an organization to deal with crisis,
mhm.
because you go back to the basics of discovery, of looking at all your assumptions, looking at jobs to be done, all of those types of things, and see what's the same and what's different.
Mm.
I need to rewrite it one of these days because it's not actually about COVID at all, but that was
Right,
the
right.
inspiring incident for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I run a community for product people called Product in the Ether, PITA.social, and another one for chief product officers that's at CPO.social.
CPO.social. Okay, amazing. So send me all of those links so I will not make mistakes with them.
I will do.
And then I can share all of that in the description.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much. And thank you very much, both of you, for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. It's great to talk to you.
Our
It,
pleasure. Our
it's
pleasure.
great.
Always.
Thank you so much, Randy. Really appreciate it. I've been a fan of Mind the Product and the podcast and all this stuff for many years now. So it's great to have you on the show. Really appreciate it. And
Anytime. Thank you again.
thank you, Moshe. Thank you to all the listeners, and we'll talk to everybody next time.
Thank you. Take
Take
care.
care. Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.